Okay, everybody sitting comfortably? Got a coffee in hand or a cup of tea? Fantastic. Okay, so warm welcome to this, the 7th, my goodness, in our series of RHEA Talk webinars. Firstly, let me introduce myself. My name is John Bone. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for RHEA Group, and I'll be your facilitator for today's session. So please use the Q&A area in your Zoom application to pose questions to our panel. Yeah, if your question is targeted at a specific panel member, could you make this clear in your question, please? I'll be asking these questions after some initial discussion that we're going to have, yeah, we'll go into questions later. So, talking of the panel, these are the guys you see smiling at the top of your screen, hopefully. We have, let's say from left to right, we have Kiri Wood. So Kiri was originally from the UK, but has been living in Germany for the past 12 years. She has been a recruiter all her career, originally in the civil service and in the UK, but for the past 10 years, she's been recruiting in the space sector. So welcome, Kiri. Okay, I'll move down to my left-hand corner now. I'll talk to Glenn. So Glenn Vickery. Glenn is a recruiter with 15 years experience working in the European space sector. So after graduating, he started work for recruitment agents. You realize I'm reading from a script here, but I'm just reading all these nice things that have been written about Glenn by himself.
It's a long list, might be here a while.
After graduating, he started working for recruitment agencies covering engineering and scientific positions within the commercial space organizations. He joined RHEA Group as a recruitment business partner, 1.5 years ago, where he's now looking after recruitment for the Netherlands, the UK and Canada. Most of his work is working with government organizations like the European Space Agency and the UK Space Agency. So welcome, Glenn.
Thanks.
And lastly, in my bottom right, I don't know where he appears in your screen. I've got Jaman Singeli. I think that was pronounced maybe a little bit correctly, hopefully. Jaman obtained his master's degree in psychology before working as a job and career coach for 7 years. So after a few years in an engineering recruitment company, he joined RHEA Group. This was 4 years ago. Today, he is recruitment business partner, supervising all recruitment strategies for Germany, Italy, and Spain. Yep. We will be joined later by Lucia Poggiaro, if that's pronounced correctly. Hopefully that was. So Lucia graduated in aerospace engineering at the Polytechnic University in Torino, with a specialization in space systems in December 2010. Excuse me. She has been working for 4 years in Italy in the mechanical and aerospace domain within the role of R&D project manager. In 2014, she joined the European Space Agency as a consultant working for RHEA, working initially as a material and process engineer, and since 2 years as a product assurance and safety engineer. In parallel, in her spare time, of course, she achieved a PhD and she's currently studying for an MBA. So we'll welcome Lucia a little bit later. So for those of you who are not familiar with RHEA, we are a security and space engineering services company with over 700 employees across Europe and Canada. So RHEA's focus is to add value to our customers through the delivery of specific expertise, technologies and techniques. And to do that, we need a growing workforce. So personally, I've enjoyed a very rewarding career within the space sector. It's a very varied business. And what is more, it's an industry that's growing extremely rapidly. So I joined RHEA just over 4 years ago. And in that time, we have doubled in the size of the company. When I started, we were about 350. We're now over 700 and still growing. So it's a very dynamic and growing industry. So Kiri, with your experience in the industry, yeah, you must have a good overview of the types of roles and types of careers that are available. Could you give an overview of the opportunities that are available and the current demand?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, John. First of all, I'd just like to say hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the talk, and I really hope that you find it insightful and useful. And I would also just like to say this is my first RHEA Talk, so please be nice to me. So, John, to put it simply, demand is high because budgets are high in the areas that RHEA Group specialises in. The space sector is growing globally, as you mentioned, growth there. And especially with sort of the concern around a need to tackle climate change, this is having a big impact with more and more upcoming space missions looking at this. So, for example, the Copernicus program, which has been running for a while now, they have several upcoming missions looking at CO2 emissions, sea ice thickness, health of plant life, earth care, and biomass are a couple of other examples of kind of upcoming missions around the climate change. So the space race is well and truly on, I would say. I also hate to mention the dreaded COVID, but even with the restrictions during the pandemic, in the last couple of years, the space sector has continued its kind of upward momentum and upward growth trend. And likewise in the cybersecurity sector, I'm sure you all know security is more and more of a concern for companies these days. So just regarding the growth a second, just to give you a few statistics, because who doesn't love a good stat? Our RHEA Group last year was involved in the equivalent of 400 FTE, what we call full-time equivalent, which basically equates to one person. So that was quite a busy year for us. In total, we employed 191 people in 2021. And we're looking to increase on that this year.
Kiri, that's new people, yeah?
Yeah, new people, 191 new people in 2021. So it was a very busy year for the recruitment team, and we hope that it continues that way. So far, vacancies in 2022 have come to 50. And to date, from the beginning of January, we have employed 48 people so far in 2022. Now, that might look like an amazing ratio of vacancies to people employed so far, but some of those would have overlapped slightly from the end of 2021. So in terms of opportunities within the space sector and within RHEA Group, I mean, there's kind of opportunities in both the commercial and the institutional areas. On the commercial side, there's work with companies such as Thales Alenia and Airbus, and of course on the institutional side there is European Space Agency and EU SPA, so the EU Agency for the Space Programme. The commercial side of things tends to be a little bit more technical, the kind of nitty-gritty, hands-on system, satellite design work, that kind of stuff. And on the institutional side, it tends to be more on the side of managing the projects that are running, monitoring, following activities, making sure that these systems that the commercial side have designed are running smoothly and then continue to run smoothly. And a lot of them are obviously customer facing, so you get to work directly with the client, which is also a really nice thing, I think. So specifically regarding the roles, we recruit people into lots of different types of roles. On the technical side, there's opportunities in space system engineering, so working on the actual systems that operate these satellites and run these satellites. There's spacecraft operations. RHEA Group in particular has quite a big focus on ground segment engineering, so the kind of development and looking after the systems on the ground that operate these satellites. There's opportunities in software development, security engineering, and roles in IT as well, so in IT support roles, working on the kind of networks, and project management as well is another example. So on the flip side of that, the more non-technical side, if you like, there's also lots of opportunities in the space sector that you might not necessarily be aware of or think about, because the focus does tend to be quite a lot on the technical side of things. But there's opportunities in project management, in bid management. We are always bidding for lots of new work at RHEA Group, so there's work in that area too. Service management, which kind of on a high level is looking after our employees who work at the client sites, who work with our customers. And there's also a wealth of roles on the administrative side as well. So human resources, finance, legal, operations support, where you sort of look after the staff in all the different countries that we operate in, project control, and of course, recruitment. So to sort of sum up, there's a lot of demand, and the trend looks to be a continuation of growth in the space sector, which we, from a recruitment point of view, very much hope will happen. And space is attractive to a lot of people. It's really cool, right? And lots of people want to work in space. So subsequently, that means that it can be quite competitive. It's quite a competitive market to get into. So if you're starting out, I think it's important to get good advice on your educational choices, or perhaps if you're studying an undergraduate degree at the moment, get some good advice on where to go to, possibly in the sort of master's direction, just to see what paths the different options can take you down. If you're already working and looking to get into the space sector, then I think you need to think outside the box a little bit. As I said, it's not all technical roles. And actually, I'm not a bad example of this. As John says, I used to work in HR and recruitment for a government agency in the UK. And since moving to Germany, I transferred those skills over to working in recruitment in the space sector. So that's basically my summary of what could be available for you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kiri. That's a really good overview.
Thanks.
So lots of opportunities, yeah, man. Lots of opportunity out there. Well, so how do people get their applications and CVs in order to make sure that they stand out and they appear as number one when they sit in front of you and that piece of paper comes through the door and you say, this looks like a great person? What do you want to see in a CV? What do you want to see in an application?
Oh my God. And you have to know, thanks, John, that it makes our life as recruiters so much easier when the CV clearly presents the right information at just the first look. So Kiri said it very correctly. It was really spot on. The fact that it is an attractive sector. To be honest, I never imagined myself working in the space sector, and then here I am, and I can't imagine myself working in another sector now. But it's competitive. There is a lot of people applying for one position very quickly. You can imagine, John, that sometimes you have 4 or 5 companies like us working on one specific project and competing on one specific project, but each company presenting 5 candidates on average, 5 by 5. That's the minimum, you know. So this is just to tell you the level of competitivity that this can represent. Still, I mean, you people, attendees, and thanks again for sharing this moment with us. It's not lost cause, but you have to put all the chances on your side to make it work. Especially, you know, when you apply and you have, I mean, you want to apply for this role you really like, you really want, and you still have in your mind this small doubt telling you, oh, but is my CV good enough? Is my CV strong enough and reflecting all my skills matching for this position? And listen to that little voice. Better double check. And you can, of course, double check it with us, with the recruiters. For example, and these are a few tips that I wanted to mention quickly to our audience, just to make sure that the CV actually accomplishes its mission and defends you. Let's say that the CV is like your ambassador. The CV is introducing you, announcing you to people that basically don't know you yet. And to make sure that the CV reaches that goal, better have just a few small tips in mind. Of course, keep in the back of your head that the aspect of the CV is always very, you know, it's personal, it's subjective. I mean, just a quick example, a CV, for example, people use colors or logos, you know, small images on their CVs. Some people like it, some people love it, some don't at all. And I mean, it's like that. It's personal as well. It's not a, you know, concrete science. It's human kind of communication. But you know what? As long as it's not an extreme, it's okay. just make it look like you, or as long as you feel comfortable with it and you like it. If you like it, it's the first important part. Then a quick list of my 6 little tips for making sure you have a strong CV representing your application. So first tip, mentioning clear job titles. What was your job title? What was your role? And that for each experience you had previously. And don't worry too much if, oh, but do I have to put that word? Do I have to mention that technology or not? You know what? As long as there is one job title clear by experience, it's okay. I can give you a quick example. System engineer. System engineer basically can mean anything and everything. And then you have people hesitating. Do I have to put more in the job title? Is it enough? Or, you know what? If you detail well the skills, activities, and responsibilities you had in that experience, if you just put system engineer, it's already kind of okay. Of course, if you had a specialization, you can mention it. As long as you have one clear job title by experience, it's already strong. As I said, that's the second tip, the list of skills, the skill set. One good advice I can give you to make sure your skill set is clear is mention it by experience, of course, by bullet points. Use bullet points. In CVs, we kind of don't like too much. I mean, it's more complicated to see the information, you know, striking directly your eye. If you mention like your experience as an anecdote, and you write kind of this long story of what you've been doing and with whom and what the goals were reached and etc. No, bullet points of skills, tasks, and responsibilities. Usually I say a minimum 4 or 5, minimum 4 or 5. Even during an internship, interns or trainees, they have 4 or 5 minimum at least responsibilities and tasks. And that's make actually the reading for the recruiters so much easier. Third, another tip I wanted to share with you is don't forget the essentials. First, the location. Where are you based? Some people working in the security domain, for example, don't really like mentioning too precise postal addresses, for example, which totally fine for us, but at least mention an area, a region, because we can see there at least if it's a possible match with an interesting opportunity based somewhere. One also a good tip, and a lot of people actually are slightly doing to do it, I found it really nice, is saying open to relocate, also mentioned on the CV, which is nice because then we know, oh, I have a really nice opportunity for that person. I was hesitating because it's, I don't know, in Germany or in Belgium, and but I know I can contact that person. So that's a kind of really nice hint that you give us already. The other tip I want to give you, it's on your contact details. You can mention the email address again. Even if you send your CV via email, put your email address on the CV again. Why? Because sometimes you apply with your CV not by email, but via an application button, automatic button. It can be on LinkedIn, on another job board. And then we receive that CV, but not via email. So we can't contact you if you don't mention at least the email address on it. And a phone number. So I have to tell you an anecdote, which is kind of funny, but still a bit annoying. Sometimes on CVs, I have four phone numbers. Why so many phone numbers? Just mention one mobile phone, maybe a fixed line, a phone number, and that's enough. I know I can try the first phone number and the second one in case I can't join you in the first one. But it doesn't, I mean, I don't need 4 phone numbers. That's too much, and actually it's kind of confusing for the recruiter. We don't know if we are doing good in calling one number or the other. So keep it clear, keep it simple. So that's for the contact details. The other tip I wanted to to share with you. And actually, we don't have an unanimous kind of opinion on that. It's how many pages does a good CV have? One max, two maximum. And what is the most important in the end? The most important is, does your CV reflect the important information, skills, so the skills, the responsibilities, the activities, how to contact you, you know, these kind of things. But does it present it clearly? Is it visually clear? Because what is worse than a CV of 2 or 3 pages is a CV with the same amount of information, but on 1 page. And it's all, you know, so dense, like written in a really, really small font, and you have to really make that effort to try to read everything. And then I kind of, okay, you know what? I pass to the next one. And that, it can happen now. It's just, the CV is just not inviting enough that I prefer to read the next one. When I have too many, I will read the next one. So I prefer 3 easy to read pages than 1 so dense. And maybe just to finish, the last and maybe the most important advice I would like to give you, that's for the most motivated of you. You have a standard CV, okay? So you take the standard CV, you take the job description next to it, and you are going to customize the CV. Well, basically, you are not going, of course, the important is not to lie. Don't write a skill that you don't have. We don't need that. But what you can do is make sure that the CV mentions the important activities of the job description or the same type of words. So just sometimes a same skill, just being rephrased differently, will show a better matching with the role, you know? And that you also have, it's also because, you know, recruitment works a lot by keywords, you know, Boolean search and keywords. So if you smartly use the keywords in your CV, really showing the matching with the job you're applying for, then the CV definitely will come on top of the pile. So that's it.
Thanks, German. That was a good detailed description there. So we expect to see lots of high quality CVs after this.
I hope so.
Great. So Glenn, coming to you now, talking more about what German was mentioning about the skill sets. So what skill sets are required, and maybe compare and contrast between the institutional sector and the commercial sector? Could you give us a bit of an overview there?
Yeah, sure. No, I can, John. Thanks. Yeah, I'd say the space sector is really interesting, and one of the things I find not unique about it, but I think makes it special, is that we both have commercial and institutional organizations. If you think, a lot of industries are pretty much pure commercial. They don't have these kind of institutions as well. So from a kind of a careers and skill set perspective, when you work in the space sector, you get, I think, more opportunities to work different kinds of roles, which is nice. It is possible. People move, particularly between commercial and institutional a lot. RHEA Group, we kind of specialize in it quite a bit. I say Lucia is one example who's going to come on later, who's somebody has started out commercial and moved into institutional through RHEA Group. So yeah, it is nice that. So there's lots of kind of crossover, but they are quite different. And I think one of the things to think about when you're doing your career is the kind of organization you do want to work for. And the differences mostly stem from their goals. You know, what is the organization trying to achieve? Commercial organizations, they're a bit more obvious. They're developing a product, a service. They're looking to sell that product and service to their customers. They're looking to be profitable. They're looking to add value somewhere. They might be looking to create a niche, maybe in like space cybersecurity or something like that. So commercial organizations, it's very obvious what they're trying to do. Institutions, very different. they're looking at promoting the sector. They're pushing R&D. They want to develop the industry across Europe. They're a big vehicle for funds. Obviously, the European Union, European Commission put a lot of funding into organisations like the European Space Agency, and one of their goals is to kind of push those funds and the investment to the right places, getting value for money. So they're also very much looking at the bigger picture, maybe. So they might be looking at long-term stability. They might be looking at more kind of threats and problems like space debris that a lot of commercial companies won't necessarily have as high a priority. They get more involved in kind of like standardization, making sure that components being used throughout Europe are meeting the correct criteria. The failure rates are very low and things like that. So they do have very different goals, and those goals, I think, create the differences. Commercial, if your skill set or your personality and what you want to do is maybe more hands-on, then commercial might be best for you. They get involved in the manufacturing. If you want to kind of be a hands-on technician, if you want to build the satellite physically, you're going to find that kind of work in the commercial sector. If you want to do, I would say, kind of lower level design, so if you want to be doing a much more, maybe coding the software, controlling the satellites, designing individual processors used in the satellites, things like that, you're going to find that work in the commercial sector. The institutions, they require the same knowledge, but they will be using that differently. They will be involved in design, but that will be at a higher level. They'll be designing at a platform level, systems engineering levels. If your skills and your mindset is more of a systems level, then you can find work in both sectors. But if you're one of those people who really want to get into the nitty-gritty, the really low-level stuff, you'll probably find out you might be better off in the commercial sector, and that there isn't so much of a crossover for what you're looking to do. Other areas that institutions specialize in, they will do a lot of testing. They will have their own laboratories. They'll be testing products and components. They will do a lot of analysis. They'll do a lot of maybe blue sky kind of thinking. Where can we go? Can we model this? Can we develop a simulation? What that's going to improve this communication signal, something like that. They're also, I'd say, involved in more the kind of the sector road mapping. They may be looking 10, 15 years down the line. What can we do in 15 years time? What can we be doing to get the industry ready for 5G, 6G, whatever's next? They're looking that far ahead, whereas a commercial company, they do have people inside them looking ahead. Obviously, they do have their own R&D teams, but the vast majority of the people working in a commercial company is probably on the here and now. We need to get this product developed. We need to get this product out the door. This project's due in 6 months, 12 months time. That's their kind of time frame. So I think the key differences between them is your soft skills and your mindset. Both institutions and commercial companies will say require people with the knowledge of thermodynamics, things like that, but they will be have a very different set of soft skills behind them. And I think if you're looking at your career and maybe you're in one of these two camps and you're weighing up what you want to do you want to make the move, do you want to switch? I think you've got to kind of look at your mindset and think, what are my individual goals? What do I want for my career? And am I best, or am I more likely to find a match in the commercial sector, or am I more likely to find a match in the institution sector? And that will probably be a key way of you deciding on where you want to go from that. Obviously, a lot of people can do both. So don't think you're in one camp or the other. That's not the case we see. We see a lot of switchover. A lot of people can deliver and enjoy both kind of organizations. But for some people, and we've spoken to them and they may have gone in interviews or things like that, they kind of partway through the process, suddenly realised that's not for me. That's not what I want to do. I want to be still doing low-level coding. I want to be doing low-level design work. So I think it's very important for you before you start maybe career hunting is to decide where you think you'd fit best, and kind of focus on that sector, rather than, you know, halfway through an application process, or maybe even getting to the offer stage, having, you know, kind of that second thoughts about what you want to do and whether that is right for you, and what you want to do for that. So I think that's yeah, kind of a big thing you've got to kind of consider with the two. RHEA Group, and what I like about it here is that we do both. So we're heavily in both the commercial sector and the institutional, and we've had plenty of instances where we can move people around internally. So I think it's a nice kind of variation and breadth to what you can look at.
Fantastic. Thank you, Glenn. And of course, we are a commercial organisation as well, so we do provide solutions to our clients as well. So thank you for that, Glenn. We've had quite a few questions come in, and I guess before Lucia joins us, we can maybe pick up a couple of those questions. So we have a question from one of our attendees around does RHEA have entry-level opportunities for recent graduates? I think I know the answer to this, but who? Kiri, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. Can you just say the question again quickly, please?
Yeah. So it's, does RHEA have entry-level opportunities for recent graduates? So
yes, we do. There are a lot of the work that happens, for example, at ESA does require you to be a little bit more experienced. They tend to look for someone in a kind of master's degree level with a bit of work experience behind them already. But in other areas, such as software development, or the sort of ground segment software teams that we have in RHEA Group, and also in Germany, we're looking into kind of working students and internships at the moment. So there are definitely some opportunities for you if you're sort of recently graduated and are looking for your first opportunity. And again, it depends, as Glenn was saying, what you kind of want to get into. If, as you say, software engineering is your thing, then the sort of internship side is something that we're looking into a bit more and are going to be expanding on in the next couple of years. If you're looking at spacecraft operations, for example, is quite a big one that is very popular with people and graduates. Spacecraft operations and flight dynamics are areas where they absolutely can take on graduates, because you're without wanting to sound mean about it, you're starting at the bottom of the ladder and working your way up. So there's, yeah, in operations, for example, there's what you would call a spacecraft controller. It's a nice way to get into the space industry, and if operations is something that you're interested in, it's a very junior position, but they can take you straight out of university and train you up into that position. And then there's lots and lots of people that go then on into more senior engineering positions in the operations side, and likewise on the flight dynamics side as well, because with that in particular, they actually specifically quite like people coming straight out of university, because on that side of things, you're looking at doing very, very, very clever mathematical equations that are way, way, way over my head. But people in university are still used to doing those and haven't got out of the habit of doing them. So there's definitely opportunities, yes.
Sure. So you start your career by flying the satellites. It's pretty
Absolutely.
Good,
Yeah. I mean, just jump straight into the deep end, I say, and yeah.
Glenn, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, in terms of kind of graduates, we've recruited quite a few over the last few years. We've kind of brought them in, and they've, when I've spoken to them, like kind of like 12 months down the line, that they've really enjoyed the variety. So we've kind of brought them in, and they've done lots of different kind of projects. Sometimes you can come in and you might pick up a big project, and you might work on that project for 2-3 years or something like that. But quite other projects we have lengthwise are more like in the 6 months, 3 months. So you can get a very wide set of experience very quickly. So we've brought graduates in, and I wouldn't say they've been assigned to a specific role. They have kind of gone on a more of a bit of a journey where they've gone around different teams, different projects, and picked up different skills. So yes, yeah, we have taken on quite a few graduates, and the aim is to take on more as well. That's one of our goals, and we are putting together, I think, a more, I'd say, formal graduate program coming up for next year. So yeah, we hope to take on more graduates as well in the future.
Great, thanks, Glenn. I'll send this one over to you, Germain, the next one. So, question is, ESA employs. Okay, so it's an interesting question actually, and I think the question is, does ESA employ only EU nationalities, the question is stating ESA employs only EU nationalities. I'm not sure if that's really true, but how do you hire from other nationalities working for ESA projects, and also in their workplace? So, Germain, do you want to give that one a go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's true that for actually it depends on the project. It really depends on the project. Some projects, John, as you know, actually involve European security, a certain level of, and it implies accessing or working with classified information. So that's kind of constraint coming from the activity itself, then yes, define or limit or search or the applications that we can treat to European citizenships, but not always. I mean, no, and not even. I mean, really recently. We hired someone from Sri Lanka, other persons from Malaysia, Turkish engineers, from all over the world. It really depends on the project the activity is related to. But otherwise, no, all nationalities are welcome. Although for ESA, of course, European citizenship facilitates or give us access to more projects.
Thanks, Germain. I'd like to welcome Lucia, who has just joined us. So, hi, Lucia. Glad to have you on board. Can you hear us okay? I can sort of see you, Lucia. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, now yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Yes.
So,
can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. We've had a number of questions in, and I'm just going to sort of phrase one to you, but also a little bit more about, we've spoken with Germain and Glenn and Kiri around sort of recruiting into the industry and the type of roles that are available. Now, you are a good example of somebody who we've taken on and has developed your career in space. We've also had a couple of questions that have just come in. I'm going to ask a bit more about these questions a little bit later, but really on diversity and I guess we have 50% of our panel who are ladies and 50% of them men to start with. But maybe if you could give a bit of an overview of your career and why space and what you find from the career, and also maybe a little bit about how the diversity of the industry is there or not.
Yes. Thanks a lot for the nice question, John. So for me, working in space was indeed a dream and also a bit of a challenge, because I really pursued this dream since I was quite young. So after the high school, I decided to leave my home in Sardinia to go and study in Torino, so to the north of Italy, aerospace engineering. And even there, I remember when I started my first day at the university, the number of women was quite limited. I think many people today, that the people that today are with us, if there are many women engineers, they can relate to that. So we were around 300 and 10 of us were women. So already there you notice, okay, why this happened. After that, after my graduation, I wanted really to stay and work in space, but unfortunately I didn't find anything available at the moment. So I went to work for a ball bearing company that is very well known as SKF, so the same company who is providing ball bearing for cars, planes and many other applications. Super nice company. I really had a great time there. And I remember that I had really a very nice experience also with the colleagues. The company is really well structured, But then I think my desire was really to come back and work in space. So I remember that I decided to accept an internship. While there, I would have had a permanent contract to go and work and join a small company that at the time was just been acquired by Astrium. So, and I remember my mother was really worried about that because I was refusing a permanent contract for an Italian to start again with an internship. But I'm glad I did it because it was a great experience. It was a small company, but was integrated in a big one. So since I was very young, I was exposed to activity that normally you see later in your career. Like I was writing already proposal for ESA, but at the same time I had hands-on experience like writing test plan and using a 3D modeling software. So it was really nice. And then I decided, okay, why not trying to work abroad? And when I applied to work as a contractor for ESA and I was selected, I really couldn't believe it at the beginning. And this is also something that I would like to stress today, that in my experience, work with my female colleagues, sometimes I think we tend to self-doubt ourselves a lot. We really, it's not that we don't believe in ourselves, but we are very self-aware in many ways, and we tend to focus sometimes more on the weakness than on the strength. And so I would like maybe to encourage the young female engineer to really believe in themselves. Of course, the hard work and studying is really important, but also the self-confidence is very, very important. And then, okay, after that, I have been working at ESTEC for 8 years. First in the materials and processes section, so very technical work in the lab. And then since 2 years ago, I joined RHEA. So RHEA gave me the nice opportunity to work as a consultant, as a PA engineer, so product assurance engineer for Copernicus. And even at work, I would say that my experience with diversity, it's not so different in the sense that what I notice is that women are around 20% in my work, so it's not bad at all. But I think we need to come to the point where we really reach equality there. And I'm not, let's say, complaining about my male colleagues. I had a great time at the university and they are fantastic also now. But I would like, let's say, to live in a society where really the equality is there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Sorry, okay. No. Thank you. I mean, we had a question in around our gender inclusive policy and what is your plan for women in leadership? So I mean, on answer to that particular question, I can tell the audience that our head of operations, our chief operating officer, is a lady, Nicola, who runs all our operations across the group. As you say, Lucia, maybe the proportion isn't what we would hope, but I think we're doing as much as we can to increase that proportion. So I've got some. It immediately springs in front of me the information that I had. So we're around 70-30 split at the moment between male and female, and hopefully we can increase that as we move forward. So that's really good. But thank you, Lucia. Give us a bit of an insight into what it's like working in space. Sort of related to that, we have another question with respect to inclusivity for people with disabilities and what our policy is. So I can tell you immediately, we have a policy on inclusion and diversity, which is on our website under the Working at RHEA. So we do ensure that all our offices are accessible. So I can cover that one off. Would anybody else from recruitment like to mention anything? I think, German, in Italy, we have some specific examples there.
Absolutely. Yeah, correct, John. And how can I present that? Very concretely, yeah, you mentioned Italy, because in Italy we have this a protected category for disabled people presenting disabilities, and we are very, very welcoming, and we try to identify and integrate and even consolidate recruitment processes, including this type of profiles. So in the end, in the overall selection procedure, this is not a criteria that we will take to screen, for example, or to dismiss someone, or to discard someone. Maybe even at the contrary, sometimes we need this kind of profiles, or we are willing to integrate more of that kind of profiles, and we struggle to find them. We struggle to help and support them to go back to work, for example, or to find a job that is adapted to their disabilities. So yeah, absolutely, it's something that we try to support as much as we can.
Okay, just we have a specific question for you while you're on, German. So it's here we are. How to describe your own experience when there is quite a lot to cover? So, for example, in a CV, when you've got to cover a lot of different areas, is it better to go short and general, or high level, or long and detailed but very accurate?
To reply correctly to that question, I would need to speak to the person and have at least half an hour, 45 minutes discussion. But what I can say is, remember my last tip. When you apply for a position, and that this position is actually mentioning a certain type of activities, don't put all the activities that you've done, especially if it was, if you write it on the CV, if it's too long. So try to maybe do a more superficial, generic description of activities that are not related to the position you're applying for, and to describe a bit more the ones that actually are covering the requirements of that position. So that would be the ideal. Otherwise, yes, indeed. If you know, John, one task is actually addition of smaller tasks. So the idea would be, are you not detailing too much these subtasks, and maybe there is one more generic task that can group them all.
Right, I see.
And yeah, and then you have something that is still giving a good idea of what you have done, but not too long.
Okay. And rather than keep you on, Germain, I'm going to ask somebody else this one. So let's see, Glenn, you haven't asked anything for a while. So is it okay to refer to a LinkedIn profile instead of sending a CV?
I'm going to say no. LinkedIn is obviously trying to move into that kind of space, you know, that you can have one stop, but we still find a lot of people just don't put the details on their LinkedIn profile. If you have a really, really detailed LinkedIn profile, you can do that, and there is a function on LinkedIn where you can turn your profile into a CV. It'll automatically convert it into a PDF. And if you have got the level of detail on that, that is absolutely fine. You can do it that way. But the vast majority of the time, you don't see the detail on a LinkedIn profile.
Right.
And also, a lot of LinkedIn profiles are there to potentially sell the company you're working for. Quite often when you look at people's introductions, they're more about the company rather than themselves. And again, a CV is not about your company. A CV is about you as an individual. So I would say try and stay away from using a LinkedIn profile and sort of a CV, and do a full CV where you can, where possible.
Okay.
I do actually, have a point about the last question actually as well. I just wanted to quickly cover was CV length. I think we still see a lot of people who maybe stick to the 1-page maximum, something like that. My opinion is put it on your CV as long as it's relevant. A CV can be 1, 2, 3 pages long if what is on your CV is relevant for the job you're applying to. If you are hitting that 10, 15 and even 20-page CV, I have seen those in the past. The chances are some of that is not relevant for the job you're applying to. So don't leave it on there. Keep it as short and as relevant as possible, but you still need to go into a bit of depth. So just don't put 1 or 2 word bullet points. That's gone the opposite way. There's just not enough info on it.
Thanks, Glenn. I'm just working my way through these questions. Thank you for all your questions, by the way. It's really good. We've got quite a few coming in still. So, Kiri, let's go to you. How do you handle open applications? So how are those processed?
Yeah, so we have a specific process for handling open applications within RHEA. So on for a bit of context on the recruitment team, we have in the structure, we have the manager and the business partners of Glenn and Germain are our business partners. And we have recruiters, but we also have talent sources who work alongside the recruiters, and their job is to really contact lots and lots of candidates, find lots and lots of talent for our talent pools, for building up good bases of talent pools and things like that. And it is at RHEA Group, it is the job of the talent sources to look at all the open applications that we have and think and to contact them. And so it's not just that if you put in an open application, it will go into an inbox somewhere where we won't see it. It comes into our careers application inbox, and then it is the job of the talent sources to screen and talk to the people who send in open applications to see, what sort of role they're looking for, because it could be that somebody doesn't quite know what sort of role they want, or they're open to talking about various different roles, and so they didn't want to necessarily put in a specific application for a specific role and wanted to talk about maybe 2 or 3 roles that we have advertised. And so it is a good way of doing that, because we make sure their application is still picked up, and then the talent sources will notify everybody else on the recruitment team and say, hey guys, I just talked to a really nice candidate who's based here, and we get all the details around where they're willing to work, what their background is, what their specific experience is, and that kind of thing. So it's very helpful for finding new people, and also for myself, if I think I would read an email from one of our sources and think, oh, actually that person could be good for this role that I've got, and so then I could then contact that person and see if they're interested. So it's quite a nice system.
Thanks, Kiri. Oh, we got some great questions actually. Let's see. So the next one. RHEA is a security company, but what about skills in big data, AI, systems engineering? Do you have a department dealing with data? I might have a word with my marketing team here, because we are a space and security engineering company. So the answer to that is we do have a department dealing with data, big data, AI, systems engineering. So hopefully that is appearing on our website. I don't know if Germain, if you could elaborate anything on the type of skills that we need in that particular area.
Yeah, absolutely, John, spot on. Because, well, we have our internal department in downstream data treatment and data applications. We also and it's part of the strategy, business development strategy in some of our countries. We are covering in Europe to get and keep growing in big data, data lake, data treatment, and secure data platforms. We recently, I don't know if you remember, John, we recently won a project in big data.
Yes.
we recruited. I think it's half or a third of the total project team that is going to start working on it in Spain. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely, it's ongoing, and it's part of the business development strategy also for the next months and years.
Okay, thanks, Germain. I've got a great question here. So, what are the possibilities of a political science, geopolitical science, cybersecurity junior profile wishing to work in geointelligence, normally reserved for engineering profiles? And is there any internal training regarding this? Now, I am aware this is an area that we are already involved in and looking to develop. I don't know if anybody would have anything to add on that. I'm looking to my panel, Glenn.
Yeah, I can answer this one. So we normally see these obviously in this kind of cybersecurity domain. Normally, if you've got that kind of, I guess, university background, you tend to go into the institutions and you will tend to work on more the policy side. That is where these kind of graduates would typically end up, institution, government organizations, working on policies and that kind of side. If you want to get into engineering, it is unfortunately a lot harder to go from a non-engineering degree into an engineering position. Firms in that area will pretty much always want that engineering understanding. So my advice would be to try and get in and go sideways internally. So that is, get a role at a company or organization which does both. Get into a position that fits your current background, and then try and gain that experience internally, and then move across into more of an engineering position. That is the best way I've seen most people do that kind of transition. And what you just want to be doing when you're inside it is talking to the managers of the technical teams. So once you're inside an organization, is building relationships with the line managers in the technical area, telling them what you want to be doing, getting involved with that team as much as possible, whether that is maybe just hot desking in the same office, or asking if you can sit in there for half a day, sit next to their engineers, and just try and understand where your gaps are. You know, what engineering knowledge have you not gained, and then you need to kind of go out and gain that training. If you are junior, if you are graduate, yeah, that is probably the best time to do it. So you're at the right stage of your career to try and do that move. But I would say that's the best way of trying to head down that engineering route. Either that, or again, you might be able to do some high level engineering stuff. You might be able to get involved with systems requirements and things like that quite early on.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Glenn. I mean, you know, obviously I'm aware within what we're doing within our security environments, you know, the use of, let's say, psychology graduates and geopolitical graduates is, let's say, growing more alongside the engineering skills. So it's a good area to get into if you're looking at security, cybersecurity. We've got time for a couple of very quick questions. So I won't graduate from my MSc until September, when I finish my internship. When would you suggest to start applying for a role at RHEA? Kiri.
Thanks, John. So it's a little bit different, as always, depending on what you're interested in doing. But I would say usually a recruitment process will take a few months, even with the best will in the world of application screening, interviews, people's notice period. Obviously, as a graduate, you wouldn't have the notice period issue, but it tends to take a few months, no matter sort of how fast we're able to work. So I would recommend probably starting at least a few months before you graduate. I would start looking for work, because that could then tie in quite nicely with so if you graduate in September, I would say maybe May, June, July, August, maybe around May time start looking for work, because that would then and obviously if you say, for example, see a position that you think you might be interested in tomorrow advertised, I'd still say it's worth a shot, but it is possible that because sometimes the process can take a little bit longer for various reasons that we don't need to sort of go into now. So I would say anything, if you're graduating in September, keep an eye out from now. But if you're looking in terms of actually being available from September, then yeah, around May time would probably be quite a good one to start with.
Okay, we are running out of time, and we've still got a lot of questions to go through, so I'm afraid we're not going to get through all the questions. So I'll just quickly do a one-word answer to some of these. I'm from a different country. Can I apply for RHEA Group? How do I get more details on benefits and perks? So the answer to that is yes, you can apply for the RHEA Group. Details and benefits, you will talk to one of our lovely recruitment team, and they will give you a bit of an overview. Is there any locations where it'll be easier to find a position in space industry? Is there a geographical trend or tips to follow? Thank you again for this discussion. Germain, do you want to quickly answer that? Because we're just about out of time.
Yeah, see, absolutely.
In 10 seconds.
In 10 seconds. Yes, there is. And call me to figure it out. No, absolutely. For example, you know, it's linked to the location of or for example, the big manufacturers in the industrial on the industrial side, or the type of activity of the institutional premises of our clients. For example, ESTEC, it's the technical center, is the technical and testing facilities of the European Space Agency. So more hands-on roles would be in the Netherlands, when, for example, ESRIN and ESOC are more operational centers. So you see, yeah, there is definitely some kind of the presence in some European countries of a specific type of industrial activity, or a type of activity of the premises of the ESA, for example. It will actually give a tendency, some kind of a trend of what type of space activities you will find in what kind of in which country. Yeah. There is a map.
Okay, I apologize to those whose questions we haven't answered. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I'd like to thank our panel members. Thank you, Glenn, Kiri, Germain, and especially Lucia for joining us. Yes, if you want to find out more information about careers in RHEA, if you go to our website, www.rheagroup.com, and go to the careers page, you'll see the careers there. You can subscribe to the careers list coming out regularly. And please do that and talk to our lovely set of recruiters who've been speaking to you today. And I wish you all the best in your career, and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.